see if it is actually working. You go to YouTube, are we live? Yes, I guess we are live. I have two current viewers, so it's not bad. Just wait to see if people come in a little bit, like 5 minutes. And yeah, you can. Mm, so, hello everyone. Let's see, we have one current viewer, so it's not. Still waiting for people to come in. Mhm. I had some problems with the streaming and had to change the link. I think it's gonna be live on the event. Um, Let me check on the event page. Yeah, it is working. So just allow some more time. People can come in, enjoy, and let's see if we have, yeah, now still two people, three. Oh, we're starting to get people in. So give it some more time. Let's wait like 5 to 10 minutes just to see. People are still getting back from work and getting into the stream. Oh, we're going up 4 people and increasing. Mhm. We have one live viewer here today. That's who the guy we see here passing behind me, and yeah, I'm excited to see how many people already do tell stories, are familiar with storytelling, and do. Let's see the events. So I'm gonna give until 5 or 10 past 6, just to wait people to come in, and then we can start with the presentation and the webinar and talk about one of my favorite topics, storytelling. It's a very wide topic. We won't be able to cover a lot today, but yeah, I want to give an overview of what it is, why it works, and how you can create stories, yeah, to basically simplify or improve your message when you're using any type of communication, being it a marketing message or public speaking or your pitch deck to your startup. Yeah, storytelling can actually improve all types of communication. It is just a way to connect to people while conveying the message you want to convey. So yeah, if you're here, you can drop a hello in the chat. I'm gonna try. Oh, Daniel, hi Daniel. Um, welcome to the webinar. Um, yeah, I'll give 2 more minutes. People is still starting to come in. So I want people to get all the. Oh, there is more people coming. Perfect. So yeah, let's give 2 minutes for the late people to come in, grab a seat, grab a drink. That we We're about to talk stories. Daniel, like, do you have any experience with storytelling? Are you storytelling yourself? Okay, okay. Well, not to drag too long, I will reward the early birds. The early birds get the worm. That's actually an example of it. This is not a storytelling, but it's something that it's similar. That is it's something that sticks to people for generations, and that's one of the power of storytelling. You can you can have your message go from generation to generation. We all know some of them, and I'll use them some as an example. But yeah, so I guess let's just get started. I see that we have some people in already, so let's not drag too much. Let me see. Oh, let me see. I have a comment on the event. Yeah, I had a little technical problem with the streaming service that I'm using, and it started the streaming just for 10 seconds, and um, oh, can you see the message from other attendees? I will be seeing YouTube messages, and I will also I'm gonna try to get the most messages from both the event in our community and the YouTube. While I'm doing the presentation, I won't be able to keep reading, but please do leave your questions and answer, not answers, comments, and I will try to have 15 minutes at the end of the presentation just to go over the questions. And yeah, just talk a bit about um, storytelling. And so, without further ado, let's get started. So let me go into the presentation mode. Let me see here. So I will say bye with my face, and then so we can focus on the presentation, and then we come back to to me talking to you more directly on the Q&A session. Um, so let's start with the webinar. How to tell great stories, storytelling 101. Before I start talking about storytelling, I want to talk about who is this guy, who am I. Yeah, many of you or most of you don't know me. I am Raphael. I'm from Brazil. I moved to Berlin 6 years ago, and a bit more than 2 years ago, I joined Busy, and yeah, beside I'm the CMO at Busy, so I oversee our marketing efforts, and I'm also a freelance photographer, filmmaker, and also drone pilot. So I do work in the creative industry outside of Busy as well, on mainly video production these days. I started as a photographer, and then moved to video, and now I'm very focused also on bringing these new perspectives with FPV drones. And I do a lot of music videos. I did some narrative stuff like short films, and I also help to create all the content on Busy. Um, so first time I came across storytelling was actually when I was still working in engineering. I'm engineering by education, and I started working in the marketing department of an engineering company doing content marketing. So I was basically writing articles about very complex physics and engineering topics. And storytelling was a way that I could simplify these topics into into a language that even non-engineers could understand. So I tried to use a lot of anecdotes and yeah, basically I forgot the word. Like when you have something else to talk about, a different yeah, anecdotes. Let's say anecdotes. I forgot the word right now. Um, but yeah, I was trying to use storytelling to just simplify very complex principles of engineering, which is very hard. And the more I started studying about storytelling, I saw the power that not only it could do, like on my job as a writer at the time, but I started studying like how it was used in different areas, and that's how I get started also with a lot of the photography and filmmaking because I was seeing all these elements that I was studying in the films and in the photos on ads, and I saw how it could be used in other facets of the marketing department as well. And I just became, like passionate about it. Like, and I still to this day, I study a lot, and yeah, it's a never-ending kind of journey. I don't, I don't think anyone can just like master storytelling. It's just a constant improvement. But yeah, this is how I came across the first time, and this was roughly like 6, 7 years ago. So I've been trying to improve myself as a storyteller for some time now, and yeah, I'm still improving every day. So let's get to the topic, storytelling. What is storytelling? So if we look at the dictionary, the definition is a process of using facts and or narrative to communicate something to your audience. And it seems a bit vague, sorry. And it's because it can be used in so many different things. If you have a message that you need to convey, you can facilitate the process or make it more interest with storytelling. So the first times that we use, especially like visual storytelling, was in the Stone Age. So the cave paintings was one of the first recorded types of storytelling. And this was basically the ancestors trying to teach the generations to come, for example, how to hunt, what are the different species of animals that you have around the area, and vegetation. And all of these were passed along from generations using these paintings where it create stories. So it's nothing new. The concept of storytelling is very, very old. But still it never loses its power. It's so powerful that you probably have some sort of relationship with stories in your life. I want to know how many of you know who this little girl is. And you're probably thinking that is Little Red Riding Hood, but this could be just Charlotte, like a just German kid that went to Brandenburg Forest to pick mushrooms. But this is so iconic that it instantly brings you the memories and brings you the feeling of the story that it's been told for so many years. Like this story probably is like, I don't know exactly, but definitely over 50, I don't know, 70 years old. And I bet many of you record vividly or at least have a strong ensemble just by looking at this picture. And this is the power of stories. A well story can stick to people and be remembered for lives or even generations to come. Um, so now I want to also talk about, just to show the power of storytelling. One study was from a New York Times journalist, I think it was like 2006. It was called the Significant Object Study. The main idea is that this journalist would go on eBay and pick in the first phase of the experiment 100 eating items on eBay that had no perceived value. He made sure that there was nothing special with any of the items, and he just bought many items, this case 100 items for around $1. The average price per item after he did the 100 buys was $1.25 per item. And then he came and he contacted 100 authors, and he gave one object to each author, And he said to each author, like, oh, would you be willing to take part of this study, the significant object study? Your job is basically to, you receive an item that has nothing special and you create a story. And I don't want it to be like a real story. I want to make sure that we are not, like tricking anyone to buy something that has not value. So you don't need to make it sounds real. You just need to create a story around this item. And yeah, and then after some time, he send each item to the authors. Each author creates one story for that specific item. And after that, he just posted again on eBay and was waiting. Like, would just a story change the perceived value of an object? Would it add value to something that doesn't have any strict intrinsic value? And then one of the objects was this horse head. So he bought this horse head for 99 cents. And after he sent to the author, posted on eBay, when the auction was closed, it was closed on $62.95. So this was a increasing value of the item of 6,300%. And the only thing that was different is he added a story about this object. So why people like see things differently when you have a story attached? Like, and this is something that doesn't have value, but you can also do that with something that already has value on it. For example, oh yeah, before we go to the next one. So this was not also a one-off thing. This horse had, it was not only the story that was really good and the others didn't really sell, um, didn't really have a big increase. So for you have an idea, combine all the objects, they spend $128.74 buying the 100 items. When all the actions were closed, they get $3,612.51. So you can see how powerful a story can be for even things that don't have value intrinsically, like there is no value there. The value is more the story is bringing to the object. And yeah, like I was saying, this is a different study because it was adding value to something that didn't really have that before. But now imagine stuff that already have value. For example, a watch. Um, a watch has one function, tell you the hour, right? But for example, people who love the James Bond movie, like they go and they get connected to it, and then like they go to the cinema and they get out, it's like, wow, look at this guy, man. Like this guy is amazing. Like I just wish I was a bit more like Bond, like so self-confident, so full of skills. And you start looking for things that you can feel that way, right? And yeah, you can have these stories that are already like widespread to even increase the value of an item. For example, the Omega watch. This watch that Bond was using on the movie, like the same model, the value of it, if you wanted to go and buy, now you can even buy. So probably the value even increased because now it's more of a collector's item. It was $10,000. And this watch, it just tells the time. It doesn't even have more functions. So why someone would pay $10,000 for a watch because it was a Bond movie, where he can pay $250 and have a smartwatch that can not only just tell the time, but can track your heart rate, can tell you if you have new messages, see how you slept. So the value of the smartwatch itself is way higher than just the Omega watch. But why people are willing to pay many times more the value, the price on the Omega watch than in the smartwatch, for example? And it all comes down to one thing only, which is emotional investment. The more you're emotionally invested in something, the less critical and logical you're gonna think about the decisions you make. And there is a reason to that. It's science, neuroscience, because when you are acting through your emotions, what is taking the front seat is the limbic system or the limbic brain, which is the brain part of the brain that is that is responsible for your emotions. And the thing is, when you have these strong emotions, even though your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that are responsible for rational, logical decisions, decisions that are going to be better for you in the long term, the limbic brain basically hijacks the frontal cortex, and the neurotransmitters and the hormones that it produces come faster than the prefrontal cortex. So many people experience this like, oh, you do something in the moment and then you try to justify after the action you already taken. But maybe it's not really justifiable. The biggest example how emotional investment can change your perception is falling in love. So if you ever fell in love and then maybe some time after you fell out of love, it goes more or less like this. When you fall in love with someone, everything they do is just beautiful. Like the way they, I don't know, eat an apple or the way they walk, everything is just sounds like amazing. When you look, I don't know, a person who has a hobby that is painting these little figures, and then you see them painting and you're like, oh, look at the passion, look how he's like so concentrated and so precise and everything. And then a year later or 13 months later, which is more or less the time that it takes for your prefrontal cortex, take the front seat again from the limbic system. You go back home after the day of work, and then you see the same person doing the figures. And like, why is he doing that? Like, he spends all the time doing this thing and has no value. He's just waiting the time. But the action is the same. Why your perception changed? Because for 12 months, you're basically acting and thinking based on the neurotransmitters sent from the limbic system and not your prefrontal cortex. So there is science behind it that is like proof that we as human beings we work this way, and that's what makes stories very powerful, because you make people connect in an emotional and more personal way. And when they are in that zone, like when they're taking the decisions with the limbic system, they don't really think logically. They don't really go and see like, oh, is this good for me in the long term? No, because I'm pumped. I want to be like Bond. I don't care if this is $10,000. Like this is gonna make me feel more like Bond. So for me, it makes sense. This is basically your limbic brain um, coordinating your actions. And storytelling has this power. So when I said like about neurotransmitters and hormones, you can induce some hormones and neurotransmitters to be active by telling stories. And there are three main ones I want to talk about today. Is dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphin. These three are your best friends when you come to telling stories. Um, and I'm gonna try to induce a bit of this on you today, and then you're gonna see if it works or not, and you can take for yourself. So let's start with dopamine. The effects of dopamine is basically increased focus, motivation, and memory. And to try to induce that, I want to tell you a little story and see if I can succeed. So yeah, as I said, I'm a drone pilot, and I started around 2 years ago, more or less. And when I just started, I was like crazy about it. Like I flew my DJI drones, and when I first saw this guy flying an FPV drone and going like through this tight gap super fast, I was like, how he's doing that, like I need to be able to do that. And I started searching, and I was like, how can I learn? And then I saw there was a very difficult skill to master, And the first thing you needed to do is to buy a controller and start practicing the simulator. And I was like, okay, so that's it. I'm gonna buy the controller. I'm gonna start buy the simulator. I'm gonna start practicing. And then I bought the simulator, but I didn't have the controller. So I was like, okay, I have to have this controller. Instant order, and it was coming from China. So that means it's 1 month to get to Europe. And then I was like super anxious, like every day refreshing the page of the thing coming. And I was like, okay, I I really need this. Like, so 1 month goes by, and then I receive a message of the courier, like DHL. Oh, your item is delivered. I was like, oh, I need to get this. I was like, I was almost getting out of my working hours to go get this controller. I was so pumped about it. But little did I know, this would be one of the longest and most memorable journey, not in the good way. So I started going, and I was like, okay, it says it arrived. Where did it arrive? I went home, was not home. And I was like, oh, maybe I put my work address. So the next day I came to work, and then I was like, okay, they said it's delivered, was delivered here. It's like, no, nothing here. It's like, shit, I need to get this. And then I started calling I called what was DHL. I was like, oh, it says it's delivered. I was like, but it's not possible. I checked my home and I checked at work. Like none of these two, and this is the two only address. How come? Like if it's not in any, it's like, oh, maybe it's in a neighbor. I was like, okay, like how do I know which neighbor? And then it's like, oh, you might have a name. And I looked everywhere. There was no name of no neighbor or anything. I was like, how can I get this controller? And then I started ringing on the neighbors, like, oh, did you get a controller? No. Did you get a controller? No. Did you get a controller? No. And then I was like, no. I called again, and it was like, oh, try check the post office. And then I went to the post office close to my place. I went to the post office close to work, and nothing. And I was like, I went to the two post offices. And it's like, oh, maybe try on the Spetis. And I was like, shit, okay. Now, here you go. Go to every Speti, and in one of them, they did they did have the package. And but that was what the worst was still to come. When I came home super excited, I put the package on the table. And when I open it and see, probably you're already thinking like, what happened to the controller? Like, what is going on? And what I did is basically induced the dopamine by creating suspense and having a cliffhanger. And this probably increased your focus or your motivation of keep listening to the story. And you're probably going to remember a bit more of the story just because I tried to create this tension. This is pretty much what storytelling. And yeah, if you're wondering what happened with the controller, yeah, for the sake of the presentation, I'm not gonna tell. Maybe I can tell you some other time if we meet. But yeah, I was just trying to show you how your body reacts when you're high on dopamine and how you can create this with storytelling. Okay, so the next one is oxytocin, and the effect is you become more generous, you trust more the person who is telling the story, and you also bond more with them. And once again, let's try to induce this. So, with your permission, I'm gonna tell you another story. So, this story is yet another sad story. Um, it happened many years ago when I was like in the early days of university, and yeah, we were basically second year of university, and was the birthday of one of my very good friends that I knew from the school days. And we all decided to go. He had like his family had a cottage or like um, a countryside house. And then we're like, okay, we go there. We're gonna spend the weekend, and then we're just gonna have fun. I just celebrate, yeah, my friend's life, my friend's birthday. And then we got there. We got there Friday night, and we spent the night drinking, and everything was nice. We set up our tents, and we had many chats. We were talking about stories since our school days and everything. And we went to sleep. And then on Saturday, it was planned a full day of just drinking, barbecue, just having fun. But yeah, when we were there having fun, it was a summer day in Brazil, so it was very hot, and we had a pool there where we were all like just going and jumping, just trying to cool off the heat with with the pool. And we were like drinking. We were just starting drinking when this happened. And it was like I don't know lunchtime, and we were all like chatting and laughing. And then one of my friends just went down, also, just went for a jump in the pool. And then, like 5 minutes, we saw, and he was kind of floating. And then we're like, oh, no, don't joke with this, like, come on, it's a serious thing. And a friend came and started shaking him, and he wouldn't respond. And we started to get worried. And we just at some point we saw that wait, something is actually wrong. So we all jumped into the pool and tried to bring him out, and we actually could bring him out, and we saw that he was not still not responding. So we had 3 or 4 people that studied physical education, and they started doing these reanimation techniques and everything, and he still wasn't responding. And the worst thing that was like his cousin and his brother were there because we were all like friends in the same neighborhood. As we started really trying to reanimate, and he started to get like change the color of his face, starting to get more purple, and then we were like, oh, we have to take him to the hospital. And I was the one actually who was driving with his brother and his cousin. And then another 2 friends went in another car and went the whole time trying to reanimate this other friend of mine. And I remember just getting into the car, my hands shaking, and seeing like his whole family counting on me to just go and get them as fast as possible to see the brother and cousin, to just have the hope to still have him around. And when we start, I remember just going 200 kilometers per hour. The the hospital was around 30, 40 kilometers, so it took us half an hour, and I was going as fast as I could. I was driving irresponsibly. I didn't care. All I cared is we need to get my friend to the hospital as soon as possible. And I remember trying to follow my friends with the car, and suddenly they just disappeared. And we went to the first hospital and told what happened, that he went to the pool and he wasn't responding, and they sent us to another hospital. And for that, my friends were just like first, and they were like rushed into the other hospital. I came into the car, and then I got into the car, and I went there as fast as I could. um, and we just got a message that they could get him to the emergency room, and they were waiting to see like what happened. And then when I got there, I just let them brother and the cousin get out, and I was finding a place to park the car. And I parked the car. I was just going and seeing the cousin and the brother running um, to the family that was there with us. And and I remember this like it was yesterday. When I got there, I parked the car. When I was walking to the hospital, I just see the brother talking to the father of the family who had the cottage, and I just see him basically shaking the head, and the brother getting in tears. They was like, I can't believe this, and he was the second brother he lost in his life, and I was just heartbroken, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a floor. I just Yeah, it was one of the worst experience in my life. And now you all probably very sad, but yeah, one thing that I just did was create empathy. And this is basically how you induce oxytocin into somebody's body. And this is also, again, this is a real story, by the way. Both of them are real stories. And this is what you can do also with storytelling. You can have your personal stories to induce a feeling that you want in other people. So now that I just told the story, you probably feel more bonded with me. You trust me because you can relate and you see like that we've been through some hard times, all of us. And yeah, this is another way to use storytelling to connect with your audience. And the last one is endorphin. The effects that endorphin can have in your body increase your creativity, relaxation, and also focus. And for this one, I could tell another story, but I think I wouldn't do um, as good of a job as this video does. I hope you guys can listen to that as well. So basically, how do you induce endorphin to people? You just make them laugh, and this is the main way you can induce endorphin. Um, so moving on. So this is why we tell stories. You could see a bit of the effect a great story can have on people, and how you can have people relate to to you or your message in a more personal way. But how do we do that? Like, how do we tell stories? Is there a formula? Is there a technique? Well, in fact, it actually there is. And basically, you have three basic story elements that every story has, which is setup, conflict, and resolution. If you're talking about filmmaking, you might also know this as Act One, Two, and Three of a movie. And this is all stories, being it a book, being it a movie, or anything that has a well-structured story will have setup, conflict, and resolution. And basically, this is the setup. You're giving context to what the story is about. So conflict is the middle point between knowing who the hero is and going on a journey with them. And his resolution is basically how is the takeaway of this whole story. And and for that, I could spend a bit more time on this, but then we would have a 2 3 hour webinar. So I'm just trying to keep it short, and and yeah, conflict can also be divided on rising action, climax, falling action. But yeah, as I said, not to get too deep into it. But one thing every story also has is every story is about transformation. So technically, like when you have the hero's journey, this is what I'm gonna talk about. You need to show a transformation from within. So somebody is in a place where in normal life, and then something happens that calls them to the adventure, and then in the end, the hero or the character of your story, it has to have a transformation. It cannot be the same. If the person or the character is the same person in the beginning of the end, it's a boring story because even though a lot happened, there is no really meaning or true message that you're trying to convey if you don't have transformation. And this can be applied also in your marketing messages and everything. I can get a little bit more later, but yeah, to understand this transformation and how to get from like the beginning of the story, all the process that the main character has to go, and the transformation that has to happen to him to make it a good story. um, we have to talk about the hero's journey because people, they don't want to change themselves, they don't want to have themselves transformed because they are very comfort in their comfort zone. They don't want to take risks. But what they want to do is to experience this transformation through the journey of a hero. And basically, this is the second part because the setup, conflict, and resolution can be broken down on this one person story. And your story always need to have a hero because the hero is the person that the audience is going to relate to. So basically, they're going to see themselves as that character, and that character is your hero. And the hero journey can be broken down basically in 12 steps. And I'm gonna go a bit fast. I'm not gonna go too much into details because otherwise, yeah, 3 hours webinar. And it's basically here we have this known and unknown. The known is the normal life of the hero. So it depends on the hero, like what their life is about. But basically, like the first step, for example, is the ordinary life. It's the life that you have every day. Like you go to work, you do your stuff, and not really different happens. And in every good story, when the hero is in the ordinary life, it something is gonna call them to this adventure, and this adventure is the journey for him to go and experience this transformation. The third step is usually the refusal of the call. And this, I can use some examples. For example, I don't know, I'm a very big Lord of the Rings fan. And Lord of the Rings, like Frodo is there, he's Bilbo just, the call is when Bilbo gets out of the Shire, and then Gandalf comes and say like, oh, this ring that was from your uncle, you have to go in an adventure to go and destroy it. And then the first time he's like, no, why? I'm a hobbit. He's refusing this call, right? And this happens in many others. I can use other movies like, for example, Matrix. Neo is there. He says like, okay, no, he gets a call from Morpheus and said, you have to get out of the building through the window, otherwise the agencies are going to call you. And he's get caught. So usually you have the first type is the refusal of the call, and the refusal of the call is what brings the guide, is someone that comes and say like, okay, you need to do this, to experience, to face your fears, to face your doubts and everything. And after he meets the guide is when he cross the threshold. Basically, he leaves the known world and gets into the unknown. The unknown in a story represents all your internal fears and doubts. And you can see that it's very, every story has a, I don't know how to say, like a disguise, but every story really is about internal and personal transformation. So if you can't convey this internal transformation, that then you're going to be lacking a bit on the essence of a story. And then I'm not gonna go step by step here. Basically, road of trials is the obstacles that the hero faces. The approach of the innermost cave. Innermost cave is all these fears and doubts that I'm talking about. And the ordeal is basically, let's say, in an action movie, is when the hero goes and it gets to the point that fight the villain. The villain is the internal fears and doubts. In an action movie, it's very easy because these steps, it's very visible. It's not as hidden as in drama or other types of stories. But the ordeal is basically the basically is the first time you try to face these fears, and usually you don't succeed in the first time because you didn't experience the transformation. And you try the first time, and is what's called the death and rebirth, is because this person that started the journey on step one, here is when this person dies, and is the birth of this transformed new person. So here is the piece of information, or the feeling, or something happens that changes your perspective of the world. And then you go back and the transformation. So this is after you fail the first time, you experience this transformation. And row 10 is basically, yeah, the final action is when you go, and is your last chance usually to go and defeat every fear and this thing that is holding you back with the transformed view of the world. And the rebirth and returning with the elixir is the rebirth is when you overcome your fears. And then the return with the elixir is when you go back to that normal life that you had before, but now you experience this transformation. You go back, but you're not the same person anymore. So this is basically what makes the hero journey. This is what makes a good story. So every good story you see, it's gonna follow. And the story doesn't need to be a fantasy story or an action movie. I want to use an example of Remy, this little rat. I don't know if you know about, if you saw the movie. The movie is Ratatouille. It's a very nice movie. It's a Disney movie, and I want to show you that even in these movies you can go and follow this this kind of formula, because when you think about, it's not about a rat that wants to be a chef. This is just what I thought is the disguise. The real message of the movie is someone who is living an ordinary life, following all the standards and beliefs that either society, in this case even the species itself, says you can't do it. Like you're a rat, you want to be a chef, you want to be in the kitchen, a rat, like how crazy are you? So it's not about he being a rat or he wanted to be a chef. He has a dream that everybody thinks is crazy, it's like impossible. And then something happens that drastically changes your environment. And this, in Remy's case, is when where the colony, where they lived, the house is broken down, and then he's split from his family, and he's alone by himself, and he finds his way to Paris. But this could be in the real life. I don't know, you get fired from a job, or I don't know, your boyfriend or girlfriend dumps you. You have something that changed your environment. And this is usually the trigger, the wake up call to follow the dream. And this is when you start crossing the threshold, right? And then after you do that, you start go, okay, no, I'm gonna follow my dreams. Like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go in this adventure. And then everything hits you, your insecurities, your self-doubt. I don't have the knowledge, I'm not good enough, I have no idea why am I even doing this. And then you go to this second, this delusion, like you try, and everything goes wrong, and you're like, maybe they were right, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And this is when it usually you have to find something that changes your perspective, like, but why, like, these people never tried to do what I'm doing? How they know it's impossible? And then you have this like moment that's like, okay, if I want to do this, I want to go different about it, and then you persevere, and then you just try new things until you get that recognition. And in Remy's case is him like getting the critic awards for the Ratatouille. And then I can actually go back. Like, the delusion is basically when he was doing good, and he um, he was found by the head chef, and the head chef started conspiring against him and the kid, and then yeah, in the end, even the crush of the kid helps to bring Remy back to the kitchen, and then he gets to cook to the renowned critic, and then he gets the recognition. And then after that, usually you also lose something on the way. You might lose your friends in real life, some of the friends along the way, or some people that you cared about. They don't really are in your lives anymore, and then you just go back into the society where you start from. But now you go there, you went through the process, and now you're there, like, succeed, and you live in your dream. And this could be a change of career or anything, and you have this same path. So you see that Ratatouille is not about a rat. It's not about a kid that needs to go along with his family name and everything. Is about you not adhering to what other people think you should be doing, or what it's possible, it's impossible, and just follow what is in your heart, and yeah, proving everybody wrong. That's what Ratatouille is about. And and that's the emotional connection. Like, how can I relate to a rat? Like, I don't even like rats, I don't even like cooking. So why do I find this movie so interesting? It's because this is the real story. The rat and the cooking is just a disguise to convey this deeper message that you can relate, because it's an emotional connection that you create with this rat, and then you go back and you're like, oh, I love this rat. You create this emotional connection because he made you experience this transformation through his story. And yeah, I think that brings us to the end of the webinar, and I just wanted to leave this quote here, that for me it's very related to how storytelling works. Is that at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you make them feel. And yeah, thank you very much. And now we go to the Q&A section. I'm gonna go back here and see if we have any questions in the group, or in the event page, in the community, or in YouTube. Let me check here. Uh, uh, um, do you guys have any questions? I hope you like. How did you like? How did you have this view of storytelling, and how it actually works, how it makes you feel, and how you can convey these messages in this way? I'm interested to know what were your perception of storytelling, how you view stories before, and now, a bit after, breaking down how it works. Um, yeah, if you have any stories that you like to share that you find super interesting as well. So I see no questions here on YouTube. Let's check also in the event. I might have to refresh the page. Boom, boom, reload. And no questions. Well, if you have any questions, you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn. Rafael Freitas. I will leave probably a link on the the YouTube video. You can. I know it's also a lot to cover in kind of an hour, and I tried as best as I could to keep it tight and not go a lot over the time and keep it in the 1 hour time frame. Um, so yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, on the busy community, on yeah anywhere you can find me. Drop me a message. Let's talk. And yeah, keep telling your stories. It's a very powerful tool. Um, yes, then I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you had a good time. I really had. I really love talking about storytelling. And if you need help also creating your story, this is something that we at Busy we can help you with. Create more interesting videos or messages in general. And thank you, Kate. Thank you. So I'm gonna wrap up for now and hope to see you guys in the next webinars, in the next Busy events. You can go to our Busy community, and there you're going to be updated to our future webinars, our future events. We have creative events, networking events here in Berlin, and yeah, we're just trying to expand. Also, try to find other people to go and and yeah, organize more events in more locations as well. So thank you a lot for watching and keep creating. So